breakdown of, yes, NFL Live is what we're calling this episode as we break down the AFC East and the NFC East today. That's right, two of the biggest, most competitive divisions. At least they talk a lot of it, anyways, about being competitive. Whether there are or not, we're talking about it today. Tubby, we got college football kicking off literally this week. We got NFL breakdowns. It is 118 degrees outside, but it's still worth it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, football season's here. I will endure the heat for a few more weeks because I'm just ready for football.
Yeah,
Real football.
dude, my dog right now, as I'm looking, he's in this room with me, and he has got his head in the vent in this room. He's just, it is
Yeah,
too hot to be in here. So,
he's smart. He's like, I know where the cold air comes from.
yes, he is. So, well, let's go ahead. We're going to jump in. And as we are, as always, please put your comments, thoughts in the chat tab. He's going to do the best to keep up with the chat today as we go through it. But yeah, we're going to jump in. And big news is the Commanders, who made the NFC Championship game last year, were the Houston Texans of last year from the year before. And I say that because this team is a little bit in some chaos as we head to the end of the preseason weeks. With both Brian Robinson and Terry McLaurin both still having contract issues, and it looks like Brian Robinson may be on the way out.
Yeah, was supposed to play tonight, and they scratched him. So,
and this is a guy with 20 touchdowns and 3,000 yards in his first 3 years. I mean, I'm just saying that's some production.
Yeah, I mean, it's production. I understand where they're going with it, just because he's not the most efficient running back. A lot of it is, a lot of those numbers were due to just pure amount of just give him the football, because up until last year we didn't have a quarterback.
Very true. Very true.
So I understand it. You don't want to pay a guy that isn't super efficient, and I think maybe you could kind of tell maybe the longevity for him probably isn't there, like you see with some of these, like a James Cook that got his big contract extension a couple days ago.
Yeah, true. I will say every year he's gotten a little bit better, and every year his touchdowns have gone up. With the exception of last year's receiving touchdowns, he got 4 randomly. But I don't know. I agree with you. I like him as kind of a sleeper, late round fantasy draft if you come to that play. But going to new place, I don't like him at all. If you're thinking anything fantasy-wise at all for Brian Robinson, steer clear. Anytime you go to a new place, Dallas would be a great fit for him. If he gets cut, Dallas should go out there and go grab him. But I just don't like any of the fits, like fantasy-wise. So what about the Terry McLaurin side of this? How legitimate of a concern should they be yet again with him still being in the news?
I mean, I think you have to be somewhat concerned. You're 2 weeks away from the regular season starting. Your number one target on offense is not been practicing, not been during the playing any of the preseason snaps or any of that stuff. So you have to be somewhat concerned, because looks like we're at a pretty good stalemate right now where neither team's given in. And yeah, they went out and got Deebo Samuel, but I think we both are on the same page. We don't view Deebo as a number one wide receiver. And we know more than likely we're going to see Deebo miss, at least 3 or 4 games. So I would imagine, they're not feeling too comfortable, because outside of that, you don't have a great deep wide receiver group there.
No. Jacoby Jones, KJ Osborne, Luke McCaffrey, Michael Gallup somehow is still on this team. This is a team that, and then Austin Eckler, if Brian Robinson isn't there, or Jacory or Jeremy Nichols. I mean, there's just not. This is a team that has Jaden Daniels and then a lot of scrubs. Not I'm gonna say scrubs. This feels bad, but this is a lot of. This is not good enough if you want to make it back to a deep playoff run. And this is a good NFC. I think this is the Commanders taking a big step back, if not 2 steps back.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. I think that if neither of those guys are there to start the season, we may not see what we saw last year from them, because granted, they went out and built the offensive line and got, Laremy Tunsil, drafted Josh Connerly, got some guys there to help protect him. But now you don't have really anyone outside of, Deebo Samuel. But like we said, we expect him to get hurt, and we don't see him as a legitimate number one wide receiver. You don't have too many options, because Zach Ertz, can he replicate what he did last year? I don't know. He's on, yeah, he's on the wrong side of 30 at this point. So I don't expect him to put up quite the numbers he did. So I think that if those guys aren't back, I don't expect Brian Robinson to be back. I think if you're holding him out of this preseason game, there's probably either a trade in line or
Hmm.
they're very, you know, deep into conversations with trading him. So
Yeah.
at least you need to get Terry McLaurin back to give him a legitimate, low tier one option at wide receiver.
Yeah, 100% agreement on there. I think the other team that you look at right now is the New York Giants.
Mhm.
Last year, 3-14. They bring in two new quarterbacks this year. They still have the number one wide receiver. They have some decent running back depth. But how legitimate is can you see them getting out of the cellar of the NFC East this year?
No, I still think that they'll be at the
Okay.
bottom. I think they will improve. I do. I think I, what they were able to do this offseason, especially getting if Cam Scatterbo can get healthy, I like him more than Tracy just because I'm not sure how well Tracy can hold up. And Malik Neighbors stay healthy. Some of those young wide receivers develop a little bit more. I think that they could be better because I imagine the quarterback play will be better even with Russell Wilson, or if it is Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston, whoever they decide to go with, or if it's a mixed match throughout the season. I still think that they'll be better, but I still see them as the worst team in this division, and it's probably not super close.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I like some of the hype, some of the pieces that they have moving forward. I
Yeah.
kind of like what you said. But yeah, I still think it's right now. That was the question: is has Washington fallen far enough back? You still think
Now,
last year the offense put up nearly 500 points while still
yeah,
giving up nearly 400 points? This is not a good defensive division outside of
yeah,
Philadelphia, obviously.
hmm
But you're telling me right now there's still a big enough gap that this is the Giants don't need to
hmm
worry about it. The Cowboys, who last year won 7 games, but this year they went out and they did make the moves. They got George Pickens, who Madden said is an 85 overall, which I still think is a little bit high. But
yeah,
again, the talent is there. They still don't have a running back, but they still don't address some of the defensive issues. This is a bad defensive
yeah,
division. That's just flat out what you look out here. So
hmm
give me maybe the expectations for a Cowboys and an Eagles team because the Eagles, I mean, they're the big dog. They are the big brother. They barely even gave up 300 points last year. One of the best defenses we saw in the whole league. Chargers were a little bit better in the points per
hmm
game stand out, but still very, very good.
yeah. I mean, the Cowboys defense, if they don't get anything resolved with Michael Parsons, it's going to be even worse. I mean, I don't understand what Jerry Jones is doing. Your best player on your team, and you're not willing to pay him. He tried last year, not not this
Yeah.
March, but last March, went to them and said, "Hey, I will take a lesser deal because I want to stay in Dallas."
Hmm.
Jerry Jones did nothing about it. Came to him this March and said, "Hey, how about that lesser deal?" And he was like, "Well, we've got Miles Garrett, we got TJ Watt, we got Trey Hendrickson all waiting for these new contracts. Now I want to see what's going to be, the price tag. You waited, and now he
Hmm.
wants that price tag, and now you're not willing to give it to him, which is ridiculous. And then to be in the media and bashing him, say, "Oh well, he missed 6 games last year. Well, he missed. Well, he's still your best player, and clearly your best defensive player, and it's not even close." And you're not willing to pay him, but yet you'll pay Jake Ferguson before you pay your best player on your team. If he's not back, that defense will be even worse than it was. And maybe they could potentially slide a little bit more just because the defensive side is not going to be better. It's going to be worse without Michael
Hmm.
Parsons. I The Eagles are still the class of the division. I do have some concerns with the Eagles' defense, which is crazy to say,
That
but
is crazy to say.
it's with the losses that they had on the defensive line. You don't have a legitimate edge rusher on that team. Nolan Smith has shown some flashes. Hunt has showed some flashes, but you lose Sweat, you lose Milton Williams, you lose some of these guys on this defensive line.
Hmm.
Who's going to be that guy to put the pressure on the quarterback outside of Jalen Carter
I
is
think
going
that's
to be
fair.
the question. And like also it comes, I think you go back to the second level, the linebacker play. Is Zach Bond put up all pro numbers like he did last year, where he came out of nowhere and
Hmm.
just was. one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He gets paid. Does he replicate that? We don't know. He was kind of a journeyman special teams
Hmm.
player for most of his career, comes out of nowhere last year, has an incredible season. If
Yeah.
he's not quite what he was, Nakobe Dean's dealing, with injury from last year still.
Hmm.
You've got then you comes down to two younger linebackers who haven't proven anything. There are some questions there on the defensive side. I think that people are kind of looking over just because the defense was so dominant last year, the defending Super Bowl champs. But I do have some legitimate concerns, especially when it comes to the pass rush on the outside, on the
Yeah. Well,
edges.
and I want to point out that last year, part of what I made every single element of this, which is the line, the secondary, the linebackers, all even better than what they were, was how good and
Hmm.
how each level was. So
Yeah,
yeah, he can stand out coming
yeah,
in. He's like journeyman, but where does he come from? Well, if your corners are playing great, if your line are getting pressure on it, it's just going to naturally set you up for a better spot. So the key to this team is, can they replicate it with an influx
hmm,
of players? And I think that they have a solid coaching staff and a
yeah,
core there. And if you look at around the division, this is still the best
yeah.
defense. But will
Hmm.
you look at the full season of work for the Eagles and say best defensive football? I don't
I
know
don't
if
know.
I'm going to say that this year, but
Yeah,
the offense on their side of the ball, Jalen,
yeah,
Saquon, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, even Johan Dotson as the number 3 Dallas Goddard. I mean, this is a great offensive unit. I think that they're
mhm.
going to have to figure out a way at some point to stop doing so many tush pushes. It is unstoppable, but like
Yeah,
keep him as healthy as possible, because that is the Achilles heel of this team. If you have to have Tanner McKee come in, or DTR is not going to be good. This team has
yeah,
to do whatever they can to keep him healthy. And I'd even argue keep Saquon Barkley healthy, because the drop
yeah,
off for those two possessions are
hmm,
absolutely astronomical
yeah,
in right now in the NFL.
yeah. And like in another instance, you're talking about the Eagles' offense. You lose Landon Dickerson. We're not exactly sure how long.
Hmm.
Probably the best left guard in the NFL right now. He's out for an extended period of time. Saquon Barkley had over 500 yards, rushing last year behind Landon Dickerson without
Hmm.
being touched
Is
before he got touched.
Might
So
be one
you
of the
take,
best stats.
yeah, right. I mean, it's an insane stat. So you take that out, and now you're kind of trying to figure out who's going to be that guard to take over for him for the for the however long he's out for. Granted, it wasn't as bad as they expected, but they expect him to be out for an extended period of time. And so how does that work with the reshuffling of the offensive line? Because you also lost your starting right guard from last year,
Hmm.
Mekhi Becton, who is now with the Chargers.
Hmm.
So you have two new starters at the beginning of the season on the interior offensive line. Maybe they do question the tush push just a little bit more, just because.
Yeah, we have different guys on the interior. It's
Yeah.
a massive, massive deal. I think it's just a storyline to watch, especially as the season goes on. If I expect them to get off to a hot start, but if
Hmm.
you get halfway through the year and there's just some rumblings, like this is the defending champs. How do you get through it? This is a
Yeah.
good team, good coaching staff. Is what we've seen. Now again,
Yeah.
a year and a half ago, we weren't saying the same thing.
I say not
So which one's the
too
real
many
one?
people saying that about Nick Sirianni, especially even
I think.
early last year.
Yeah, winning does change a whole lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
well, let's move on to the AFC East. And before we do that, rank the quarterback. I want you to rank the quarterbacks in the NFC, and you can go
Mm,
ahead and throw in Jackson Dart with Russell Wilson if you want to. You can put those together.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna put Jalen first, just because we have seen it. He's gotten better every year. He has 6 different offense coordinators in his career. He's been in the NFL for 6 years, so he's
Yeah,
had a
that's great.
different offense coordinator or play caller every year. And I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap,
Hmm.
but he's won. And so I'm gonna put him first. I'm gonna put Jaden Daniels number 2. I
Yep.
think we're gonna. I don't see the CJ Stroud fall off like we did with him. I think Jaden
Oh,
still be good. Maybe we don't see a jump just because we're not quite sure about the Terry McLaurin situation.
hmm.
Then Dak Prescott, then either Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, Jameson Winston, whoever is the quarterback throughout the season. I'd imagine Russ will be the starter for the most part of the season, but I mean the way Jackson Dart has played during the preseason, we
It
don't.
might be a Dak Prescott situation when he was a rookie. Like, sorry,
Yeah,
played his
yeah,
way into it. So I agree with
yep.
that. Yeah, I do like that ranking. I was just curious where you're going to put Dak, and then Daniel
Mm,
and Hurts, because
yeah.
there's more
It,
talent in this one than some of the
mhm,
divisions we've seen recently or
yeah.
broken down recently.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So now let's move over to the AFC East, where we have, of course, the Buffalo Bills. We got the Dolphins, the Patriots, who are still trying to rebuild, and of course the New York Jets. We'll start with the Jets. What should the realistic expectation be for this team this year?
Hope for 6 wins.
Hope for 6 wins. Get Justin Fields 1,000 yards rushing. Brees Hall 1,000 yards rushing. Get that
Yeah.
going. You know what? Could have worse years.
Yeah, I mean, it could be worse, but granted, do we see Justin Fields as being a team that can get a team over the hump?
No.
No. He's not an NFL starting quarterback. Sorry, but he's not. And I like I like the head coach. I like his mentality. I like where, the mindset he comes from, the Dan Campbell, mindset where, we're going to go out there, play hard, and we'll take someone that other teams didn't want, and maybe we can turn it into that. I don't see that happening, but it's just kind of the weird situation with the Jets where they've already came out and said, well, we're going to have a running back committee. We're not going to go with our guy, Brees
Brees
Hall.
should be the lead back, and this should be a lead back. And
Yeah.
you have nothing to lose by doing this.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
zero reason not to do that.
Yeah. And so I didn't like that to begin with. So I don't know. I don't think there's a whole lot of hope for the Jets this year.
No, I agree. Again, drop off Tyrod Taylor, Adrian Martinez, and Brady Cook are the current quarterbacks on the roster. It is not good. They've got to keep them healthy. And here's what Justin should do: run a lot, scramble quite a bit, of course, do that kind of stuff, and get out of bounds, get down.
Yes.
This team dude, at least play your way to another contract, because he's a good backup.
Yeah.
And then play for the opportunity of the next one. So yeah, Jets hope for 6 wins, but it's going to be a long year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. All right, let's move on maybe to the New England Patriots. You got Drake May, Travion Henderson. Obviously, he's not officially the starter yet, but they got some hope there. Stefon Diggs situation, Demario Douglas. There's some hope here, a little bit more momentum right now for this franchise. But what are you looking at for the storyline for the Patriots this year after going 4-13 last year?
Drake May,
terrible offense.
I'm saying that Drake May is my sleeper quarterback this year. Especially when we're talking fantasy football, I think this guy takes a step forward with what they did in the draft. They knew exactly what they needed to do. You go out and get Will Campbell, shore up the left side. Then you get Jared Wilson in the third, fourth round, who I thought was an absolute steal. I thought he should have went higher. There's a lot of people who weren't super high on him because he wasn't, the most athletic. They knew what they needed to do, and that was to build that offensive line. You go out and get Kyle Williams in the second round, who was an underrated wide receiver at Washington State last year. Stefon Diggs is way ahead of schedule. He's already practicing, and he's cutting, he's moving. It's not like he's just out there running routes on it. He is taking those sharp cuts and stuff. And will he be what he was a few years ago with the Bills? No, but at least he's a good option for a team with some younger wide receivers. Demario Douglas, he played well last year. It's going to be on some of those other younger wide receivers. Can they take that step forward? And I am big on Travion Henderson. He was when it came to the NFL draft, he was my best option running back because I knew he was going to go in the second round. And I think getting him in the second round with the ability to catch the football, be able to run the football, and then you throw in the kick returns. He had a 100-yard kick return in his first game. First time he touched the football in the NFL. So I think that they got them a running back. Then you throw Ramondre in there maybe for the short yards, the red zone, goal line stuff. I think that this team is trending in a very good direction, and even with the additions that they had on the defensive side, I think this team is moving upwards, and I really think Drake May is going to take a big step forward.
Yeah, I'd like to see him do it. I think he got his feet under him a little bit better towards the end of the year. Felt a little more comfortable. But yeah, I like him. I like the depth that they have a wide receiver and running back. That's a great safety net in Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
And they're building from the inside out. This is a good culture reset for 2 years for this team, which is going to be great. So defensively, I think – oh, go ahead.
We can't miss the biggest addition of the season, though, either for him. Mike Vrabel. It was
true.
It should have been the higher last year.
Should have been the higher last year. I don't know what they did. hopefully Gerard Mayo just gets another
Yeah.
opportunity at this because he was not handed a good opportunity at
Yeah.
all
No.
here. And then to do that after 1 year doesn't make any sense when we
Yeah.
all knew last year it should have been variable for whatever
Mhm.
reason it wasn't. Yeah, 100% agree with you. It's going to be that's a good hire. I just hope Gerard Mayo gets another shot, like
Yeah.
legit
Same here.
shot.
Yeah.
That's my fear again. If you go back to the Jets, like I don't think this is a fair shot because the Jets are
Yeah.
terrible and they're not
Mhm.
set up to win right now. And in a market where it just doesn't play long term here, so
Yeah.
hopefully he gets a longer term option here. But let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. You got Tua, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jaden Watt. I mean, you look across the board. This team looks like this is the team I want to play with on Madden. But how realistic is this team? Does Tua even get to play the full season?
Yeah. That's always the concern with the Dolphins is how many games do we have Tua? Because we see the
12.
production. Yeah, we see the production when he gets hurt on the offensive side. They have no answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest concern for them this year, yeah, it is, your franchise quarterback, but it's how bad this defense could potentially be this year. That secondary is not good. Trading Jalen Daniels, yeah, you got Jalen Ramsey, you got Minka Fitzpatrick back in the deal, which is a great player, but he's a safety. He doesn't play corner.
Mm-hmm.
The corner position for the Dolphins is real bad. The pass rush
Yeah.
for the Dolphins, Jalen Phillips coming off back-to-back injuries. Bradley Chubb hasn't done anything. He's got hurt his first year there, and then got banged up again last year. I think this
Chop
defense
Roberts is going to have to take a massive step forward.
Yeah, they're going to have some young guys step up on the edge because you can't count on Chubb. You can't count on Jalen Phillips. And I mean, Phillips is already banged up. He was limping around on the practice field the other day. But the secondary to me is a massive concern. Cam Smith he wasn't healthy last year. I still have high hopes for Cam Smith. I think that he can, turn into a really good corner in the NFL, but he has looked real bad during the preseason through, all the summer and stuff like that. This team is going to have to bank on scoring a bunch of points to have any chance at any hope of making a playoff, a wild card position at all.
And the good news for them, they have 3 guys out there that could score in about 12 seconds from the 1 yard line. I mean, they absolute lightning in the bottle. And I think Devon Achane, people may not always realize how many catches he has on the backfield, but the dude is so quick. So I agree. Yeah, that's the thing. This is the Indianapolis Colts of Peyton Manning with no defense. That's what this has to be. And not Peyton Manning.
No.
But I will say, as far as drop-offs go, Zach Wilson to Tua, it's not terrible.
It's not awful, no.
Not terrible.
And then, I mean, running back, you did lose Mostert, and then you do lose Alexander Madison. But I think
Only
that
Gordon,
we saw.
James, right?
I think we saw in this year's draft that the running back group was so deep that we saw a guy like Ollie Gordon get drafted in the last round. And I think Ollie Gordon could be a solid backup running back in the NFL and, spot starts and put up some, good games. And Jalen Wright was drafted in the 3rd round last year. So they obviously have high hopes where I think that when you look at some of the depth pieces for him, it's not as big of a dropout as we see with some of these other teams.
Yeah. All right. So here comes the big question. And maybe I'm leading the witness here, but I need you to tell me why the Buffalo Bills will not win the NFL championship this year. Why are they? Because this is the team to beat, obviously, in the division, but this is a team that has the talent, that has a quarterback, that has good coaching, that hasn't gotten over the hump. Tell me either one, how they're going to get over the hump or why they're not.
So I don't see them winning again.
I'm sorry, Buffalo. I tried. I tried to set up Tubby. I did.
I want to because of all the anguish and you're always so close.
14.
But I still have major questions about the weapons on the outside. We don't think that James Cook is going to have 18 touchdowns again this year.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Buffalo Bills didn't think that. That's why it took him so long to, give him the extension.
Yeah.
And there's also one other big reason why. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Every team that has been on Hard Knocks has not won a Super Bowl.
This is true. That's more solid than the whole Madden cover curse. This is more realistic. That's the hard part. But And that's the thing is, like, if you look at Josh Allen, he's probably one of the top 3 quarterbacks across the board,
Yeah.
what you could say, for any
Mhm.
criteria, and there's some really good
Yeah.
quarterbacks out there. James Cook is super talented. Yeah, he's not gonna have 18 touchdowns, but I don't think
Yeah.
we're gonna see the Raheem last name, Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, Raheem Mostert.
Mostert, thank you. I don't know why my brain couldn't do
Mhm.
that. Drop off that we saw year over
No.
year from Miami, but 12 touchdowns, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This dude can still find the end zone. So this is where I'm at. I think this team wins the division for sure. They
Mhm.
should make another playoff run. But what do you begin to do if this team doesn't get over the hump? Is it more a tweaking, adjusting, or is it like, hey McDermott, I'm sorry, like we got to move on from this? I don't know. Those are really big questions. This is going to be a long season, but at some
It's
point,
to me, I think they need one big question I have for them is the depth in the secondary.
mhm,
You have some good guys, Terrell Bernard, stuff like that, but injuries have seemed to plague that defense quite a bit over the last couple of years. Maxwell Harrison was your first pick, and he's
mhm,
hurt
mhm.
already. And so, where do they go? When it comes to depth wise on that side, and I think that they need to really address the wide receiver position. I like Keon Coleman, but I just don't know if he is a legitimate number one wide receiver. Outside
Mhm.
of him, I mean, Shakir is a solid slot receiver, but he's not a number two wide receiver. To me, he's a number three wide receiver at best. And then everyone was talking all big about the Palmer, addition, and now they're talking like he may not even have a roster spot. So you need more weapons on the outside instead of relying so much on Josh Allen's legs to get him out of trouble because the wide receivers aren't able to get open. They're really going to need a big season from Dalton Kincaid. We're going to need to see him build on what he did in his rookie year into
Mhm.
his third season because
Yeah, a
last year
tight
was
end's
a
a
big
slower.
slump.
It's yeah, that makes sense for he should we should see that, and I think that could be
Hmm.
a big
Yeah.
avenue for it. Um, yeah. All right. Well, I got one final question, unless you got anything else to say. This is not related to the AFC East or NFC
Okay.
East.
All right.
Are you ready for it? So,
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel has his first preseason game. He does have some smack. I don't know if you saw that towards Shadir. Come on now, Dylan. But he had 143 yards, no touchdowns
Hmm.
preseason. Don't worry about that. But he did throw the one pick,
Yeah.
72% completion percentage. That compared to what Shadir did.
Yeah.
Who has the better path right now going into the preseason week 3? Obviously, assuming that Shadir is healthy.
Yeah. I mean, if Shador's healthy, I think Shador should get the start. I think he should. He. I, it is nothing against Gabriel, but he showed what we knew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he can complete a lot of these, small dump down passes, and he's going to have a high completion percentage. But he's just not an NFL legitimate quarterback. I think he's a good backup quarterback for his career, where he could have one of those long
Sure.
careers as a backup quarterback. But Shador Sanders has that ability to potentially be a starting quarterback if he if everything falls into place. We already have seen him take strides in his pocket presence in the first preseason game. Now it's can he start, building upon that and kind of blocking out the outside noise and not being so much of a, look at me type guy instead of let's look at the team and it's a team game. But I think that he has more ability and more upside than Dylan Gabriel does, and he should definitely be the next guy in line. They already announced Joe Flacco is going to be the starter. No big shock, but I think that Shador Sanders should get the final start in the preseason game if he's
Yeah.
healthy.
100% agree with him getting the start. The Browns need some highlights. Yeah, go ahead and
Yeah.
start Flacco, but by week 8,
Hmm.
let's hand over the reins.
Yeah.
Sorry, Flacco. That's just kind of how the
Yeah.
cookie crumbles, man. Let's go.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's
Yeah,
like nothing against Joe Flacco, but you're obviously not the future.
yeah,
You're closer to
100%.
the 40 than you are 30. So
Yeah,
they have to start looking forward and they have to start finding, is one of these rookie quarterbacks going to be their quarterback of the future, or
hmm,
are they going to have to look towards next year's draft and a guy in, Klubnik or Nussmeyer or, Lenore Sanders, something like that.
yeah. Wow. Already thinking about new names. Wow.
Yeah.
You drafted so many quarterbacks. We'll figure one of them out. All right, we should have kept Baker. So, guys, that is the episode. We're going to have a college football season preview prediction episode that'll come out later this week, Thursday or Friday, depending on our schedules. It's the beginning of the school
Mhm.
year. We're still always a little bit crazy. So, thank you so much for number one, subscribing to the show. If you
Yes.
haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're always going to be free on the YouTube side of things. So, if you do that, it's the easiest way to support the channel. It goes a long way. And that way, you can make sure if you miss an episode, you can come back and watch it later because we always post those live videos later on. So, it's a win win for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, we got a few people in the comment section to shout out. Number one Steelers fans, thank you for being in the chat. Joey D,
Represent.
thank you for being in the chat, even though you are a Niners fan.
That's awesome. That's a Packers fan for you saying, you know what? I don't know.
But yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate you guys being in here and watching us live.
That's all right. Yeah. So we'll see y'all later this week. But till then, see you.
See ya.